Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Aisha, your host. It's rapid fire Q&A time with Dr. Shabir, where you ask and we answer rapid fire style. Let's get started, as always, with Dr. Shabir Ali. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shabir.
Pleasure to be on.
Okay, so it's rapid fire. So the first question is, how can you talk about ibadism? Someone's asking, I want your opinion on it.
Yeah, this is a variety of Islam that is known in the North African region. It's present in Oman, it's present in some parts of Libya. Basically, they're like other Sunnis. They may have a very slight difference in their development of theology and history and in some of their practices. One of the things that is noticeable about them is that when they offer their prayers, most Sunnis would clasp their hands, but the Ibadis would keep their hands to the sides. But this is not unknown even in Sunni practice, because it is thought in the Maliki school of Islamic jurisprudence that this is an acceptable variety in our prayer as well. So they're part of the Sunni following of Islam.
Perfect. Okay, so this question is about, someone's asking, what surah and contextual significance does the Quran mention the Kitab al-Munir?
So the Kitab al-Munir is mentioned in two places, and in both places it says that the previous prophets came with Bayinat and Zubur and Kitab al-Munir. So what is this? So Bayinat are clear evidence, or clear evidences. Zubur could be pages of scripture. And then Al-Kitab al-Munir, the enlightening book, the book that throws light on other things. So which book was this? It could mean in the Quranic context that there is the scripture in heaven that becomes the source of all earthly scriptures. So sometimes in a general way it is said that the prophet comes with the scripture, meaning that what he's teaching is a subset of what is there in the heavenly preserved tablet of Holy Scriptures. And then by extension, the Quran says that some people who are arguing against the messages of the prophets have no real basis to stand on. They do not even have a Kitab al-Munir. They do not have an enlightening book.
Okay, the next question is, someone's asking, what do they do in a situation where they're not financially stable? They feel like they're financially stable, but the partners that they're seeking out think that they're not financially stable to support a spouse.
Well, some compromise obviously has to be reached here between the two prospective parties wanting to get married. To a certain extent, one has to put trust in God as well, because two persons are subsisting anyway as individuals, as separate single individuals. Now, the only thing is that they're going to get married, they're going to eat the same amount, and provision comes from God. So we emphasize that people should get married, because this is one of the ways in which we curb our desires, and we channel our desires in a halal or a permissible way. At the same time, I'd like to encourage Muslim communities and organizations to support the single people who want to get married. And of course, there are government resources as well to help people to do precisely that. In short, we want people to get married, and the lack of resources should not be such a huge hindrance.
Okay, someone is asking, can I marry a non-Muslim girl even if she doesn't want to accept Islam?
For a Muslim man to marry a woman of the people of the book, as the Quran uses that term, this is known in classical Islamic jurisprudence to be entirely acceptable. Some hesitate and think that the second Caliph Omar put a stop to that, but he did so due to certain circumstances that he noticed in his time. The basic Quranic declaration about this seems unchallengeable, and that is what many would see as applicable to our times, meaning that, as the Quran says, that the chaste women of the people of the book is permissible for the Muslim men to marry. And people of the book are broadly defined as people having some scripture from God. This most clearly applies to Jews and Christians who are followers of their Bibles. But Muslim scholars have extended that to other communities as well over time as they encountered these communities and saw that these communities have religions which are based on some scriptural revelation that they believe to have come from God.
Perfect. Okay. The next question is, my question was, do women shave their heads while performing hajj?
Usually not. It is recommended for men, by contrast, that they should either clip their hair short or clip it all over the head, or even better yet, to shave it entirely. But for women, it is recommended that they clip just a small bit. Some scholars say just one lock of hair, and to the extent of the first joint of one's finger. So, about an inch or less.
Okay. A viewer is asking, can you explain the significance of verses 51:49 and 36:36?
So these verses speak about God creating everything in pairs, and we see that at the very basis of all things, there is a kind of pairing. For example, there's a DNA double helix. It is a double helix, so there is a pair. Moreover, we can speak of a matter and antimatter. That itself is a sort of pair. And in the most obvious way, we notice pairs. There's male and female, and so on. Of course, at this level of simple observation, one can say that some things do not seem to have pairs. But at the very basis and root of all things, we see that there is some sort of pairing. And God knows best what He means by His revelations. We can only have some insight into this.
Okay, and another question is, what is the concept of salvation in Judaism?
As I understand it, Judaism, as far as the Torah is concerned, which is at the core of Judaism, is mainly concerned with God being pleased with you and giving you His benefits in this worldly life. Because the Torah itself does not speak about a life hereafter. Later writings in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Scriptures, would speak about some resurrection after death, and there seems to be some hope as well that if you live a righteous life, then God will resurrect you. And so the bones of relatives were kept after the body had decomposed in ossuaries, with the expectation that eventually these very bones would be reconstituted by God so that the human being is resurrected for the afterlife. But the idea of salvation for the afterlife, which is so prominent in Christianity and in Islam, does not seem to have received such a great emphasis in Judaism.
So Shabir, the next question is from a viewer asking about Surah 6, verse 146, and they say, when it says, forbade them the fat of ox and the sheep, could you please explain it?
So this is speaking about the people before us, the scripturalists, people of the book. God had given them certain prescriptions, and some prescriptions which were given for them do not apply to us. So the Quran shows us that each community can have a particular manhaj, a path to follow, and a sharia, a law. And it is within God's prerogative to give a specific law to the Muslim people. Some of the scripturalists were wondering, we have these things which are forbidden, how could it be permissible for the Muslims? Well, it's almost like Jesus, on whom be peace, saying, according to the Quran, that I've come to confirm that which was there before me of the Torah, but also to make permissible some of the things which were previously forbidden. The Quran adds something to this by saying that sometimes a prohibition entered in the previous scriptures because people were so adamant when God gave them a regulation, they wanted more, or they were kind of wrangling with the prescription, so God gave them even more tough laws. than the initial prescriptions. And the lesson for Muslims in all of this is that if God tells us to do something, we just do of it as much as we can, but we don't wrangle with the regulation from God. We accept it, and we try our best to fulfill it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.